Welcome back from the small group discussions, and I hope that this was a time of humanness, being present with each other, sharing with each other in rich and direct ways. Thank you to the translators for helping to make this possible. So now the final part of our symposium today is the round table for all of the speakers. And this gives you all an opportunity to ask a question or to make a comment about any of the speeches today or anything that it has caused you to think about or reflect on. Our moderators for the round table today are Professor Larysa Didkovska. Good afternoon, Larysa, from UUAP. So good to see you. And Milena Marković from the Serbian Union of Associations of Psychotherapists. Thank you, both of you, for moderating the round table this afternoon. And now Martinez will put the other speakers onto the screen with you, and we can begin the round table. Okay, thank you.
Good. Dear colleagues, welcome to this round table. And after these really stimulating presentations and deeply moving exchanges that we've already had in large group and the small groups, we are looking forward to equally engaging roundtable discussion. So we invite you to ask questions to the presenters and contribute with your thoughts. And the rules again are really simple. You can raise your hand using Zoom gestures and speak directly, or you can use the chat to write your question or reflection.
Дорогі учасники симпозіуму, приєднуюся до нашого круглого столу.
Dear participants, I'm happy to express this joining this roundtable. Hope this will be the place for you to share your reflections, to share your impressions, and everything that Milena just said. We're very excited to hear you, and as for that, you're free to think and express. We see two virtual hands already. So, Tatiana Жадан. Thank you. My question is to Zoran Milivojević, or maybe other speakers would like to chime in and add to this. Zoran, just what you described regarding the process of dehumanization that reminded me to some extent to what we call psychopathy or antisocial delinquency. Is there a connection between psychopathy, dehumanization, antisocial behavior? Because it develops of what people live in the war as of stress or trauma and not being able to express it in ecological ways. Thank you. So Zoran, that was a question to you, or?
Thank you very much for that question. Yes, it's the same process, but the difference is that psychopathy or antisociality disorder is something which develops through adolescence, and the person is whole life in that process of dehumanization, and usually they have that apathetic dehumanization of others. But this kind of dehumanization which I talked about, it's about normal people, because in the war situation, dehumanization is just a principle of the group, and the group make cohesion inside, and they see other group as a cohesive. So there is a collective guilt. Everybody on the other side is evil. And that's, I can say, some kind of temporary dehumanization. And for majority of people after the war, Irena Bezic talk about Croatian point of view. how she needed maybe 10 years to dehumanize, well, not to rehumanize the picture of Serbs. So it's a long process, but normal people, regular people, it's for them, it's only temporary. Thank you.
I see Ivan's hands.
Так, мене чути?
Mhm.
Чути, добре.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. Well, first of all, huge appreciation to everyone joined in. I have just one general comment and one question to Joseph.
Ну, такий загальний коментар полягає в тому,
A general comment is
ми звертаємося до наших іноземних колег, і ми дякуємо.
we talk to our foreign colleagues and we're so appreciative of them being here, sharing their comments and feedback. And I had the feeling that at some point when we're asking them, when we query some experience, we won't necessarily give them time necessarily to reflect and think properly about it. And thank you for the colleagues who are reflecting in the chat with text, because around us in space of sounds, sometimes you don't have time enough to even answer. So my general question as a reflection to all the foreign colleagues, how do you feel? How do you feel whenever you do not have the space to reflect, or where we don't have the luxury to answer all the questions that come up? And my specific question to Joseph: in Andes, they talk about everything connected. So does it mean collective responsibility? Is there a connection that everything being connected would mean like how networked it is and how much responsibility everybody bears for that same sum of total? Over.
Well, I can answer your last question perhaps, and a little bit also the first part of it. Of course, my exposition was a little bit in an ideal situation, and I am aware that, for instance, the position of Emmanuel Levinas is provocative in a certain sense, because it puts the question of humanness and humanity to an absolute point. He even calls it the absolute. The human being is the infinite. He speaks about in his classical book, Totality and Infinity. He puts infinity as the dimension which is not defined, not determined fully, but which can be determined. And totality is the other extreme, where we are part of some group, of some ideology, where we are just following what the mass says. So that is the point of Levinas. And it's really, I think it's extreme, and it's not quite easily to be adapted to a concrete situation of war as you live in the Ukraine. I'm aware of this. So I wanted just to share with you a position of absolute transcendence and absolute value of human being versus the relativization of human being in some concrete contexts. About the Andes, of course, I had not so enough time to explain it fully, but I think individuality and individual responsibility and also individual guilt is secondary in the end. It's not the first thing. It's not first. First is some kind of communitarian responsibility, not collective. Collective is also communitarian. That means the community, formerly the peasant community, but now also the urban community, which is responsible for the moral and ethical integrity of the whole community. And if there are members who violate the so-called Andean trilogy, there are three mandaments: do not lie, do not steal, and don't be lazy. These three, and they have to do with reciprocity and complementarity and correspondence. When somebody is violating it, the community has to try to reintegrate the person. It's not to punish. So you have some kind of communitarian justice, which is different from the formal justice, the formal national justice, etc. And so the responsibility is broader than the individual one. It's even broader, broader. It's even it has a cosmic dimension. You can say that in the last run, it is Pacha, so this cosmic dynamic duality of time and space, of life, which has in itself some kind of responsibility and justice. But it's difficult in short words to explain such a different worldview. And just perhaps a last remark, I think dealing with these multi-crises we are going across now in mainly the Western world, but not only the Western world, also in other parts of the world, we should perhaps open our ears and eyes for other worldviews as the indigenous ones, because they can tell us from a different point of view, perhaps ways of coming out of this situation.
Thank you, Josef. There is a question in chat that I think is a good follow-up to that.
Є ще 3 руки. Олена Ворона, Пітер Філіпсон, Володя Погрейович.
Yeah, Olena Vorona, Peter Phillips, and Volodymyr.
Я хотіла запитати тих, хто
now, or do you want to raise the question first?
як можна охарактеризувати такі явища, які відбуваються зараз?
How can you characterize what's happening right now, where aggressors like Russia use propaganda to teach people, to condition children, to indoctrinate children from early age to dehumanize a certain race or a certain community, like Russians do towards us. And aggressors usually do that towards those they want to capture lands from. So first they brainwash the population to hate those people, and then practical things start happening. That's what pains me, and that's what would be exciting to hear about.
I could say that I'm ambivalent about talking about shared humanity to people who are fighting for their lives. I think that when you're risking being killed, then other priorities take over. At the same time, I think if people who are fighting are just in survival mode, then they can't support each other in the way that Ukrainians have supported each other so well. So I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'm very ambivalent. And sometimes it seems to me like therapists say to people who are fighting for their lives, why don't you just love each other?
you. Volodymyr?
Yes, thank you, Peter. Thank you for. Do you have more questions, or by answering Olena's questions, you actually said what you wanted to say, or would you like to add to that? No, I'm just talking to Peter and Philip because his hands was the second one. Impression, does Peter understand the question? It was about Ukrainians and not Russians, right? Peter, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm just unmuting myself.
So that was your answer to Olena's questions, or
it was my own
would you like
statement.
From yourself?
I think it spoke in some way to Elena's question, but it was also mine.
Was Olena's question answered then? And who was it directed to? Maybe we can hear from her and then from Vladimir. Olena.
I just wanted to clarify. What I said was about Russians who have been indoctrinated to hate Ukrainians from the childhood. So the Ukrainians have to be killed because they are such and such and such. Literally, we just talked to children who were rescued through Save Ukraine, and that's what's happening. So we were curious to know what do you think about what others think about this? Because I was really shocked. Well, I think pragmatically, the question would be like, how can you help these children in this situation? Are there methods? Because that's what's already happened. The position, what would your position be? Of course, that's bad that it's happening, but the question is about, there are no Russians in this discussion, so we're not even listening. So do you understand me? There's no way to hear their opinion. Okay, so. Sorry for intervening. I think the Russians have always have had this position towards us, well, at least some 50 years. And that's nothing new. The Turks traditionally, historically did that with Ukrainian kids. It's not one particular nation that does it. The British and the Germans did it. Peoples did it. Now we're thinking about the future. How can we avoid that? How can we remedy that? As psychotherapists, how can we help humanity overcome that? So my reflection. Sorry, Sasha, there was Vladimir had a hand raised. Could you just speak after them, right? So I would like to, let me rephrase my question then. In your society, my Serbian colleagues, how have you processed in your society? Have you ever had this, what we call the mindset of empire that wants to rebuild itself? At least we need to stop playing a game of ignoring the big elephant in a China room. China meaning kitchenware. Meaning the issue, when somebody is so big and so aggressive, what do you do about it? Over to you. Thank you.
So I assume the question is for Zoran and other Serbian colleagues here. Maybe Nevena and Marina can also reply.
I do not agree with your assumption that you made parallel between Russia and Serbia as great countries. We are a small country, we have 6 million people, and Yugoslavia was very comfortable for Serb nation because a lot of people were living in Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina and so on. So the format of Yugoslavia was very convenient for Serbs as a nation. And that was the conflict between Republic that wanted to separate and Serbia who wanted to stop that process. And that was the reason for the war. So I don't think that we have any self-image as empire or something like that.
Yes, quite the opposite, Volodymyr. I also, when you said it today, I thought, how can I reply? For me, it's I think we are really suffering a lot because of this assumption that we are seen as if we are Russians by many political ideas. I agree with Zoran. We are totally the opposite. They are an empire, and we are a very small people suffering through centuries and traumatized in many wars. So it's really a wrong assumption. But it hurted me. I must tell you, Volodymyr, the only thing today which I felt hurt was when you said it, nothing else. And I can say for myself what helped me. It was so horrible, the war, horrible, horrible. I am lucky that I was only on the side of victims, meaning that I lost members of my family. But I'm lucky that I didn't have to be a soldier and to have to dehumanize somebody else. That I am from a physician's family, that I find it as a sort of luxury in wars. It's a difficult profession as a doctor, a psychotherapist, but you are always trying to humanize. And in a way, it's a luxury. I think it's horrible. We were talking today really an important issue, how to deal with this opposite situation of for example, I was recently in Tuzla. There was an important conference, Egatin, and we had a large group, and a Croatian colleague talked. It was a very good large group going on, but also about the Srebrenica and a lot what was going on in the Balkans. And he explained how his father told him how he had to dehumanize a Muslim persons for being able to kill them. It was really, and then in the group process, this colleague who actually talked about something so painful became a scapegoat in that group from others. So I think we are dealing with so complex processes, very complex. The Soldier's Matrix idea of Robbie Friedman, that they are really living for so many years, Israel, in Soldier's Matrix. It's different than a matrix of healers and the psychotherapists. It's really different. It's really, for example, another example, it was in Granada, a small group. There were Palestinians in the small group. The conductor was an Israeli. And they insisted, they didn't stop insisting, if our conductor of the group killed, if he killed. It was such one of really very specific situations to learn. He didn't answer, but the feeling in the room was that he did. So then there was a question, how can you be a conductor of the group with Palestinians or with whomever if you have killed? So I think we're dealing with enormously complex things, and I'm glad we are here. I was so hurt and traumatized that I decided never to travel abroad, but then I did. And slowly, I think the international groups like this one healed me. Of course, not totally, I'm full of wounds, but being able to listen to different people and so on, different perspectives is healing. So I appreciate enormously this kind of work.
Thank you for your words, Marina. We have Mirjana Mavrak, who raised a hand.
Okay.
We can hear you.
I hope that you can hear me. I'm coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm coming from Sarajevo. Probably some of you may know me from others symposium. And from the beginning of our today's discussion and symposium, I feel very overwhelmed with everything what I heard. I cannot say that I do not have even identification with some of our Ukrainian colleagues today who are suffering of the war disaster. But I also see the world, the whole world, I mean, as a boiling pot. And sometimes I have even more respect for people who can survive with themselves being on a side of aggressor. I don't know if I'm quite clear on this. But I think that, I experienced as a very young people, I was like 27 years old when the war started in my country. And I was also full of misunderstanding and hatred, and I wished to survive, and I could not understand the things that happened to me. I also thought that I will not survive the war disaster. I thought that I will die. And I thought that basically, if I meet the enemy face to face, that would be the end. Because we were in the besieged city of Sarajevo. They sent us bombs. We did not have these drones, but we did not see the enemy in the city itself. And I can just share my experience, and I can tell you that during the war, my position or my way of thinking has changed from the fact that I thought I will die to the point where I expected to survive. And when I was not ready maybe to meet immediately the other side, but then when the time had passed, I recognized it in myself the readiness to meet them. I also have to tell you that I stayed together with all my family to stay in Sarajevo, although my father was from Montenegro and my mother was from Serbia. And my husband at that time was a Croat. So I had a lot of friends who were Muslims, Bosniaks, and I considered myself always as a citizen of Bosnia and Herzegovina, although I loved my previous country, which was Yugoslavia. But at a certain point, when Yugoslavia did not exist anymore, I had no doubts to vote that I would like to be also in the country like Bosnia and Herzegovina, and not to stay somewhere in that imaginary country which does not exist anymore and whose army did a lot of harmful things to our Slovenian friends or Croatian friends or neighbors, etc. So that was my way of thinking. When I was in the middle of Sarajevo during the war, looking at all these kids who were suffering, having experience which are quite, how can I say, similar to something what I think that her name is Didra, the lady, our colleague from Kosovo shared in chat with us. Of course, I recognize in myself a great pride that I can help these people around me. But when I moved and meet at a certain how can I say, educations, etc., other colleagues of mine, that means other helpers, other psychotherapists, I felt connected on that base, not on the base of territory or on the base of nationality or ethnicity or anything else. And what I learned is actually that human suffering has something in common, and that if a child loses a father, then that child is an orphan, and it does not matter if the child is in Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, or I don't know, elsewhere, Israel, etc. And I understood that actually you are the part of the war and it's not your choice. Your choice is to stay there or to choose some other suffering, but you cannot be out of the suffering. And that suffering is not comparable. So if I choose to stay in war, maybe I will be forced to kill for survival. We discussed about that today. But I would say, if I have to kill to survive, I should not be proud on that. That is actually, that pride is something what Zoran mentioned in his lecture today. And I would say that proud is something that we should heal our community of. Because, you know, in my country, we actually have our federation now. Republic of Srpska has Republic of Srpska. We all live in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we have another type of war. It is a political war. We do not have blood on our streets anymore, but we are very, very destroyed society. And for instance, my citizens from my city decided to put a year ago a tank as a sort of weapon in the park near my gymnasium, so that they would like to actually pay the respect with that monument to these people who actually were on our side in this war. I think that that monument should not be allowed to be posed in that place, in this Sarajevo, which swears that it is multicultural city, etc., because any weapon that I wear will kill somebody. And I should not praise that, because if that was a sort of necessity at the time of war, I should not praise the fact that I had to be cruel and to, you know, to be satisfied with that. That brings me to the question. In the war, maybe I will be the winner. Maybe I will be the winner. But the question is, can I treat the loser with dignity? In our small group, we had some very, very good stories, very nice, touching stories about Ukrainian prisoners of war who would say, if I captured or caught the Russian soldier, I would actually just keep him as a prisoner. I will not kill him. So I think that also we as a therapist, we should be aware that everywhere helpers are the one who will be invited to come after the battle with the towels to pick up the bones and blood and I don't know what else. And that's why I think that this identity of therapist working as a helper should be somehow above or beyond all other identities that I have as Mirjana, as Bosnian, as, I don't know, woman or whoever else. So that means I felt in myself the big change when I answered the question, when I am a helper, would I help helpless enemy? And when I answered yes, that would be the first thing I would do. And then I would think, who is he? That was actually my, how can I say, humanity that I saw in myself. I'm sorry if I'm too emotional, and I don't know whether I hurt somebody with this, but I really had a strong need to say that I can understand, and if I understand, it's not near the justification. Justification is something completely else.
Thank you, Milena, for sharing your experience and your insights.
Тетяна Жадан рука, але Олександр Турченюк, чи ви хочете ще щось сказати?
Okay, Oleksandr or Tatiana. Oleksandr, if you want, you can also read in the chat, because I couldn't see your hand. Yeah. No. Okay, but Tatiana then. Thank you. I wanted to ask Oleksandr Mironenko. You, in your intervention, you said that Ukrainians would rather not perceive themselves as victims in the war. Yeah, most no, they deny that we are being attacked, but we're not victims. These are two different things, and it is a semantic difference, because the victim is not something that fights back. What fights back is something else than being a victim. That's victimization entails passivity. Whereas standing back and fighting back is a different instinct, and really, if it wasn't for that instinct, the war would have been over way back when. It's only that. So yeah, victim is the victim's behaviors. Victims is something that allows the violence, the aggression to happen. Here's and it's not only fighting back, but retaining dignity and not reducing yourself to a barbarian. So being honest. I mean, it's not about relations with the enemy. It's about being honest with yourself. But I thank you for asking that. I think it can be satisfactory that what I wanted to share really reached its objective. Thank you. Well, Oleksandr, I wanted to ask back, since in the presentation regarding the 5-year of war, it's been since 2014. It's been 12 years, because they annexed Crimea, and that's where the war, the military action started. I worked with the military since 2014, and they're amputees. So I just wanted to make that clear as a context. I agree with you. It's sometimes just difficult to find which is the point that you start counting from. So mass-scale invasion, of course, that was a colossal catastrophe. And it's just an even deeper hitting. So I wanted to share not only with you, Oleksandr, but with everybody. As a psychiatrist, I work in psychiatric wards in a hospital. And in that hospital starting from 2014. They are military service members being treated because the military hospitals are not enough capacity. So there's a big difference for me. Why for 5 years, not 14 years? And what is what? So starting from 2014, when most of the service members were depressed, just depression, and they were lost. They didn't know what they're fighting for, who they're fighting with. What is this war about? Starting from 2022, February, the large-scale invasion, these military service members who were in mania, euphoric, they want to go out. Give me weapons, I will go and win. That was a completely different emotional response. And for me, therefore, these are two different sections of the same war. Yeah, thank you, Alexander. And it was surprising when I saw these people who are suddenly very elevated. Right, thank you. Irina Chabanova. Yeah, I wanted to thank for what's being expressed now and for what Irina said about Serbia, about Herzegovina. That really expanded our context because everywhere from the start of Symposium up until now, it was hard for me to deal with the cognitive clash with some of the things we hear. I am a former military service member, and my husband is still. So it's when we are like that, and you mention or you remember someone like one of my relatives who is now deceased, but sometimes he would make us peek into that huge box of worms that they have to deal with, a can of worms. Those who went into battle with, and he could stop them and said, "No, we don't kill, we take hostage." Why? Because our guys are also waiting for them to exchange, and that was for me at the moment the highest pinnacle of humanity in that very moment. While you're massively attacked, while you lived I'm myself from Suma, from Ohtyrka. It's a city of heroes, so you can't compare with what our actual service members on the front line meet. And they come to us, and we try to, as much as we can, appeal to their humanity and work with that and be with that. And, in this context, when you meet somebody in the office, you can hear a lot of histories. You can hear a lot of stories. What happened today, it was important for me to hear our colleagues from other countries, how they see that. Because I understand the colleagues from Ukraine who shared their emotions, their feelings. And you would like a wider scope. So we're very thankful for finally emerging. And it's not only about the former context, how our war is seen or observed by other countries. No, it's about their experience. And it's very important to be able to deal right now. So I'm thankful for that. Thank you so much. Do we have time for a couple of words? Because, I was listening to all of that. Everybody's coming back to that Cartman triangle, which does have the notion of a victim or a food that can be dehumanized for consumption. And there's another article that also requires dehumanization, and it's something that we call aggressor. So manipulation with this role of aggressor for sure will lead to the situation where most people in the world, they see those who fight to stand up for themselves as the wrong ones, and they try to dehumanize those who are trying to stand up for an aggressor. And regardless of how you call this country, you can call it Donbass, you can call it this, you can call it that. Israel is one of that. And they started to defend themselves after what? Being attacked? So, and they kind of distribute these roles. Oh, so this is how you're supposed to stop thinking about other people as people and start thinking about them as lesser people. These are the examples that come to mind. Thank you so much for letting me share this. Oh, we have two more hands.
Maria and Larysa.
4 minutes till a wrap up of the round table. If possible, please be concise. Sure, yes. Just two examples from my experience that, for me, illustrate true humanity. First example comes from, it's been 3 years that I work with mothers and wives who lost their siblings at war. The latest group, the mini group of mothers, one mother curses the war and everything. The only son was taken. She has no grandchildren. She curses everyone. She curses and hates everyone and knows that no way I will forgive anyone for anything. Another mother in this same group who is just lost the only son, but she has grandchildren, and her other sibling is mobilized or conscripted to the war, and she can say, I cannot hate them, otherwise I will not be able to love my grandchildren. So I cannot fit both hate and love, because I gotta choose one of them, because I gotta be strong. If I will spend all my strength for hate and wanting to revenge while I can't, I won't be strong enough to love my son. What I want to invest in, my time, my health that I still have, into possible future. Well, at least I have these grandchildren. And talking about Russians, they say, well, they have been trapped themselves. They've trapped their own soul. They've trapped everyone who lies to themselves traps themselves, consciously or not, imposed or not. But it takes a choice for darkness to go away. Can I have compassion to them? Yeah. It is an example of humanity. For a person after a hell of loss of siblings and loved ones. Larysa and what?
I have only several words. I'm really impressed with the depth of this meeting today. Every time we're going deeper and deeper. Thank you, Oleksandr. Thank you, Mariana from Bosnia. I still have a feeling that next symposium will be after the war, because you're already making steps. You're so courageous people. I admire you every time. You're so courageous that you're already proactive looking to the future, and you already make these steps. And I feel this today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Зараз набираю тебе.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Дякуємо. І справді, слава Україні!
16 hours.
Героям слава.
Героям слава.
І слово Патрісії.
So I will
Patricia.
thank you, Larysa. I will say a few closing remarks and really important thank yous. And I think the first thank you is just to everyone for participating so fulsomely and richly in this symposium today. Everyone has contributed to make it so special. Thank you to Roman and Milena for your opening addresses. Thank you to our excellent speakers. To Zoran, thank you, Zoran. To Josef, thank you, Josef. To Marina, thank you, Marina. To Oleksandr, thank you, Oleksandr. And to the holders of our therapeutic group, Eugenius and Roman. And to Larysa and Milena for the round table. And then two very important thank yous to Martinas, who has done all the technological work, which just makes everything possible, and he connects us together. So thank you so much yet again, Martinas, for everything that you have done to make this possible. And thank you to Oleksiy Babansky, your first time translating for us. You've done a superb job. You said it would be a privilege to work with us, and it's been a privilege for us today to have you work so excellently with us today. And everyone is sending up emojis to support what I'm saying. I feel this has been a very profound symposium. We keep on thinking that they can't get any better, but they just keep on getting better, these symposiums. And so we hope that that you take a lot away from this symposium today. May you all, everyone, everywhere around the world, be enabled to live within your full humanness, your full emotions, your full personality and characteristics, your full strength, your full connection with others, and the way that you are with others, your full and sustained hope that we can bring more peace to Ukraine and to this divided world. So let's all live with greater humanness as we leave today's symposium. The next symposium is on Friday, November the 13th, and we look forward very much to seeing you then. All the details, the theme and everything will come onto our website when we're ready. For now, goodbye, take care, stay safe, be well. Bye-bye.